Hello, everyone, and welcome to the sharing group. Today's lesson of A Course in Miracles is lesson 92, which states, miracles are seen in light, and light and strength are one. Miracles are seen in light, and light and strength are one. And our next guest, y'all, has most certainly had experiences that required his light and his strength to overcome. Professional intuitive astrologer, relationship coach, and near-death experiencer Eric Taylor is here today to share with us his incredible recovery from his near-death experience, which served as a catalyst for the expansion of his spiritual gifts and abilities. Eric, we are thrilled to have you join us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It is my honor and pleasure to join you, Loretta. I am very excited to be here and talk with you. Let's
Yeah,
talk.
let's do it. I love it. I do it. So, yeah, why don't you start from wherever your beginning is, Eric, with your experience?
Well, my near-death experience was in 2021, but I gotta backtrack a little bit. I'm a native New Yorker, moved out to Arizona with my wife and two sons in 2011. Didn't know so much about it, but in 2013, I wind up doing something really innocent, opening my front door looking for the cable guy. And it wasn't him, but it was one of those weird, puffy, cloudy, yellow, cloudy days in Arizona. And I'm coming off a couple of surgeries. I had fractured my foot falling on black ice in New York before I left and on my way a block from my job, and then had to get a second surgery out here. So the immune system was a little weakened or whatever, but a gust of wind just like blew into me like Ghostbusters. And I'm like, it was crazy. Like, I mean, a real violation. I was like, what the heck? And I told my wife, I said, I think I'm going to be sick. Needless to say, next day I'm in the ER. Oh, da, 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 da. I'm numbness in the arm. And I was like, I'm not going to be a proud black man and like just die at home. Let me go to the doctor, right? I was like, I'm feeling heart pain and numbness shooting down my left arm. I never had no stuff like this happen. Yeah, I had a few surgeries, but nothing crazy like that. So I was like, I think I better go to the doctor. So they tell me that, and they're like, "Oh, you're maybe just stressed and anxious." You know, my wife was pregnant with twins at the time, and I'm like, "Nah, I already got two kids. My life is why this ain't stressful." They never checked, but anyway, the valley fever is a fungus that's in the Western Hemisphere in the United States. I wound up getting valley fever. It usually shows or reveals itself in your lungs.
Wow.
Well, Eric Taylor doesn't do stuff the easy way. Never went to my lungs, went to my head and my neck, and I was producing mucus every day as if I had the flu. So you can imagine the lymphatic tract goes all through the body. It messed up my wrist. I had a carpal tunnel surgery. It collapsed the arches in my feet. I had two foot surgeries on each foot. This is after I had two from breaking my ankle in 2011. So anyway, go through all that. Western medicine fails me. Finally, get, I mean, leeches, all this medicine, finally diflucanazole. But doctors weren't believing me. And so it was really hard and a lot of money out of pocket, spending a lot of my savings. Fast forward, COVID happens. Before they said it was here, yeah, it ran through our house January of 2020. But we were okay. It's like I've had pneumonia and walking pneumonia and the flu before, so and bronchitis. This was pretty bad. I was sick for about 3 weeks. Totally fine. My mom went in the hospital, came back out. She was good. Then fast forward, we're on complete lockdown, homeschool, being real careful because my mother was a survivor of breast and brain cancer and in a wheelchair and started declining with dementia after about 2013, 2014. So during the pandemic, all this stuff happened. Delta, the second strain, came through our house in late August of 2021. My mother goes to the hospital August 27th. I go in August 29th. Um, for some reason, we had that COVID fog. My wife is checking her oxygen. It's like 92, 93. They say at 88, you should go to the hospital. I'm checking mine. It's in the 70s, 60s, whatever. But I should have really gone in with my mother on the 27th. August 29th, I said, I don't feel too good. I think I need some help. We called, don't you know, they came and they checked, they wouldn't come in the house. They're like, this is like yellow tape, like this place is toxic. And so I come outside, they checked my oxygen. No lie, Loretta, it was 56. They're like, Mr. Taylor, how are you standing? And I'm like, I don't know. Just like, oh, strong like bull. I'm just me and me, right? They rush me in as they're getting ready to close, the ambulance and all that. My boys are crying. They're on the front lawn. My wife's upset. And I said, I love you guys. Daddy's going to be okay. Now, mind you, this is August 29th. I said, I'll see you in October. And she was like, and then they closed it. She was like, no. And I don't know why I said that. I guess it was just my intuition. I
Wow.
get there. Each day I'm getting sicker. I don't even want to get into how they were treating me. The ER doctor verbally assaulted me, yada, yada, yada. It was all craziness. But, during the pandemic, there was a lot going on and a lot of people with all different stuff. Um, I told them about the valley fever because valley fever doesn't play well with steroids.
Mhm.
It reactivates it, and it had been dormant in me for a while. They were following their protocols, did not listen to what I told them, gave me the steroids, and then valley fever awakened and was like, oh, wait a minute, there's a party in this guy's lungs. I want to join the COVID. And then September 6th, after my fantasy football draft, I did on the 5th and 6th, I'm dedicated. I was so delusional, Loretta. I asked my wife to bring my computer into the hospital because I thought I was going to do work on like somebody had just ordered a birth chart. I had no clue. I could barely lift my hands. I couldn't even get the computer to work. I was out to lunch, getting sicker and sicker. But what's funny, they denied me of the monoclonal antibodies, even though at the time I was 50, on the verge of turning 51. A husband, four sons, totally should have given it to me, but they didn't. Especially because I know people who were in their 80s, neighbors and stuff that got it older. And then I was never offered, like who I found my roommate afterwards, after I awakened. They induced his coma to relax him and to help him to heal. They didn't do nothing like that for me. They watched me
Mm.
get sicker and sicker. September 6th, 11 p.m., my wife gets a call. They're like panting in a panic. Your husband's organs are failing. Death is imminent. We'll call you back in an hour. Click. What? It wasn't even the rush of the pandemic. The hospital wasn't overflowing. As soon as I got there, I had them wheel me down to my mom, and she was doing better than me. No oxygen, no nothing. And I'm like, Mom, you're gonna be okay. I gave her a kiss on the hand. She's looking at me kind of angry, but she was like, okay. And she would just whisper, and I was telling them what she needed and stuff. But September 6th, I was just out. I remember that night, they were doing this thing to put like a mask on you, and they were saying that this would help you, but it was like really kind of scary because it was like a full over your head like thing, and you
Mhm.
would breathe. And I remember I did it once or twice, and I told my wife, I said, I'm going to do this tonight. I'm really tired. I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it. And that's the last thing I remember. She gets that call. They didn't tell her. We kind of assumed that I may have, and probably did, most likely coded. They called her back after an hour, ventilated the whole nine, stayed on that longer than possible. And for me, I immediately went into the astral realm. I was in different dimensions. I was just traveling different places. There was never a moment of darkness. And for me, unfortunately, I really feel it was spiritual warfare. I was facing the dark night of the soul, and
Mm.
I was down there handling God's business. I was battling. I was tormented and tested. I was definitely, it wasn't like something where, people say, like, oh, I saw Satan or I saw, God, Yeshua or Jesus, or it was just different human beings, different experiences, but it was more the spirit behind them.
Mhm.
In a coma, what was wild, in real life, my wife is like fighting with doctors, advocating for me. But they had her come in to check on my mom, and she snuck down to my room. And this is like September 4th or 5th, and they literally were about to like arrest her and take her out of the hospital. Like it was crazy. But she was like, "I'm gonna go see my husband.
Oh,
Make sure you
man.
don't treat him right." And but it just sometimes it's hard to fathom all that went on. I
Yeah.
know for me, it was if I was so one experience was I was in California, and I was going through like these different spiritual tests and
Mhm.
meeting these different people. It was really weird. And then my birthday was right after I, fell into a coma. And, on the other side of the waking side, my wife and my friends, they put together all these people wishing me happy birthday, and they played it for me. My wife wasn't able to come see me till the 20th. So she would call on FaceTime, and she played it for me, the birthday wishes. And don't you know, when I was in a coma, I had the best birthday party ever. It was the black tie affair, Loretta. This was one of the positive memories. A black tie affair. Everybody from every aspect of life. I mean, elementary school, community college, college, University of Maryland, adult friends, friends from the neighborhood, like everybody. And I'm just like bugging. I'm at the party, like, hey, like, what's up, yo? What's up? And it was my birthday, total black tie affair, like a gala. It was amazing. But that's when she was, playing the happy birthday stuff. She said another time, I want to give you a couple little positive things before we get to all the harsh negative stuff. Another time they were playing music, they were playing hip hop, right? I'm an MC from New York, younger brother of hip hop, and just always loved it and recorded some albums. And she played like Tribe Called Quest and Nas and De La Soul and Boogie Down Productions, all my peoples, right? And she said I started like dancing, and they
Mhm.
were getting excited. The boys over FaceTime, they're like, Daddy's moving, right? So they knew that there was like life in there.
Yeah.
But then they got nervous because my pressure started to raise, and the doctor was like, turn it off, and she's like, is everything okay? And they're like, yes, but we can't have this go on for too long because he's getting too hyped up. Like I was literally like in a coma, like going. Like she said, I was like bopping. Can you imagine? I mean, that just tells you, I guess, the love for hip hop, but just the connection of the music and the two realms. Um, but they said he's okay, but this is actually good that he did that because then we know that he's in there.
Right.
But there were times where she said I just was total limp, no movement, no nothing. Um, so back to the California, I was getting on like this, I don't know what to call it, like a spaceship, and we were going to Mars. So I had that experience. I had another experience, and this was like I was going to London with my son, and we were going to do some procedure either for ears or for my eyes. I don't know what it was. We were going to London. But
Mhm.
mainly, the thing that was really so scary and so harsh was my wife was trying to kill me. Everybody in the hospital was trying to kill me, and she was cheating on me, having an affair. She had like two boyfriends, and it was crazy. And I was just like, but they were like, it was really weird because they were like physically abusive to her,
Wow.
and she went through that experience in her first marriage. So I guess that's why it was in my subconscious. So it makes sense, but it was just bad. And then she actually like, even though she can't have no more kids, she like had like a little baby girl in her lap or something. Like it was the weirdest things. But what would happen is, like, for example, one time the respiratory nurse, this is all in a coma, had taken away my oxygen, and they were watching me like literally die. And I had to confront them. And I was like trying to catch my breath. And I told, and literally in my hospital room, there must have been 30 or 40 nurses, doctors. And I got my breath, and I told the respiratory nurse and the doctor, the head of the hospital, all of them, I said, you better give me back my breath so I can breathe. If I die, my family will come after you. And I said, I will hunt you in the spiritual realm. You have no idea who I am. I am a spiritual giant. And I was pointing at each one of them and calling out, the names that I knew. Now, meanwhile, this was not at the first hospital. This was at the second hospital in St. Joseph's in Phoenix. And I went there October, I don't even know the date, but I think like the 10th, but I was totally out. I got, when I got transferred, before I got transferred, they were stripping away some of the medicine, and they told my wife, oh, he's going to start to wake up.
Mhm.
Nothing happened. They did a CAT scan in my brain because they got concerned. Then they waited a few more days. They're like, yeah, we're taking off some more sedation. He's going to start to move, the flicker of the eyes, moving the hands. Nothing. Then they got really concerned. They did an MRI of the brain, and that stuff is, a lot of money, insurance. So they were really concerned.
Mhm.
And that was fine. But what was fascinating, while I was in a coma, I was killed 3 times. one time I was shot, and Loretta was like outside my garage of my home. I literally felt the bullets. But what was wild, I knew spiritually, I was like, after the first time and I came back, I was like, eternal life. I was like, I can't die. And I just knew. And so after the second time when I died, I had an option to come back and see my 12-year-old son at the time, now 14, my little Gemini, 5 years into the future. And I didn't want to do that. So I just went to my house on the sofa. And when I was there, I saw one of my twins, very spiritual little guys, that alpha generation, 11 and younger, they're like little spiritual giants. He comes over to me and sees me, gives me a hug. Now, to the right of me is this spirit who is like my wife's boyfriend, but it was like a demonic spirit. And it was almost like he was like my tour guide through this experience. It was really weird. But so when I'm there, I see my son, he sees me, comes and gives me a hug, and then he goes off. But he's in 4K color technology. I see my wife and her friend, who was like a business associate. She was phasing out like her first business, and I saw them go in the backyard and walk around the table, and I can hear what they were saying. And they were in 90s VHS technology in color. Really weird. It was wild. And what was so crazy is that my son, he said, "Oh, dad's going to be okay. He was at the house. He's going to be fine. He's going to come home." And she's like, "Oh, okay." She didn't pay, so, the minute I first woke up and I'm talking through the trach, they hadn't given me like my voice box yet. My wife, it was weird because I'm waking up and she's like, the last scene that I remember, and this was really hard because like I wake up and then she's there. I woke up a couple times. I'll get back to that. But when I awakened for good, she came later that I guess that day or that morning. But the night before, I guess she was showing me on the laptop our life together, but then she was showing me a preview of her future life with her new boyfriend on the video. And then I wake up and I'm like, and I see her, and she's like, "Oh my God, hi, baby." I'm like, "Don't baby me, like you freaking," I was so hot, Loretta, and I was angry, and I had been dealing with, a couple times I had awakened. So it was 40 days I was in a coma. I originally fully like woke up for good on the 16th, but I believe on the 13th or maybe and maybe the 15th, I had awakened, but it was at night in the
Mm,
hospital at night. I don't know all the time. I don't want to judge or talk bad about people, but during COVID, it was not a good experience. Not for me,
yeah.
right? I can only speak for me. And the nighttime nurses, they wound up putting restraints on me twice. Could
Mm,
have been more, I don't know, but it was so bad the first time because I'm just, I had had my locks at the time. I'm trying to raise my, I'm so weak, I'm like sleeping for 36, 37 days. So I awakened and sweat was dripping down, but they didn't even turn on the lights to look at me. And all I was trying to do was wipe the sweat off my brow. And they wound up putting restraints on me. And I
mm,
was so angry and frustrated. I couldn't do anything. And so I just went back to like a coma land and went back to sleep.
mhm,
But I mean, I saw so many things, and even advancements in technology. The apps on the computer were floating outside of the screen, right? My friend, my good friend who I used to do a sports radio show with, and I was doing my fantasy football draft. His father-in-law got him and his father-in-law were killed being shot through the phone, and
mm,
then came back to life. Like this was the stuff that I was seeing. I mean, I could go on forever talking about the different vignettes, but I think what was wild is that when I did awaken, I got that confirmation. I literally did see an astral travel to my home because my
mm,
wife was like, "Yeah, this her friend, and our friend, she was there," and she's like, "How did you know that?" Because I'm talking through the trach, and I'm like, "Because I was at the house."
mm,
And she's like, "What?" She's like, "Jackson said he saw you." I was like, "Yes, I saw him. I was there." So I'm like trying to talk. She's like, "Okay, just watch your voice. You're gonna hurt it." But for me, it was really such a journey because I had to, after I pushed through or faced spiritual warfare and all this demonic energy and fear, then when you awaken, the real battle begins in the living side where I had to rebuild every aspect of my life, my body. I can remember it was very upsetting for me. I was talking to one of the nurses. This was like a day or two after being up, and people coming in and checking on you, doing all this stuff. And, I'm like telling him about me. And I wanted to say one of my rhymes to him. And I started, and then I like forgot it. I
Mm.
was like, that's not me. My brain isn't like that. I remember all my rhymes, you know what I mean? And so I started to tear up, and he was real nice. I'll never forget. I think his name was Jeremy, black nurse, and he said, "No, no, no, brother, you're okay." He's like, "It's just gonna take some time for your brain to come back like online and just have everything. You're gonna be okay. You got to give yourself time to heal." And don't you know, 2, 3 days later, it came back and I saw him at home. I said, "Come here, Jeremy." I was like, "Come in here. I got something for you." I'm in there trying to recover, and I'm over there giving like, astrology readings for people. I'm rhyming. It's just me.
That's
That's
what
what.
helped you recover, though. You know what I'm saying? You continue to live.
You're so right.
You continue to
And
do what you
I can
love.
tell you though, the first time that I had to finally started working with like PT and OT there, and I got up to sit out of the bed. Now, mind you, I lost 36 pounds, mostly muscle, of weight. And during, when you're in a coma, they're more worried about your backside. So my shoulder was totally bent out of place. It was turned forward. I mean, it was terrible. I was like, in my mind, I was like, what did they do to me? I felt like they broke me.
Yeah.
And it was painful, but it was extremely weak. I mean, so I remember the first time sitting up and trying to stand out of the bed, I thought I felt like the hand of like God on my chest and heart. Like I couldn't, like just to stand up, I was like, like I was so weak. It was wild. But I went through that journey and I had to fight like the Dickens with the insurance companies to get to this rehab. And I stayed on the phone an hour and 16 minutes, and I advocated for myself because they rejected me twice from the doctor submissions. And I told them, and I said, this is my only hope. This rehab has me working out 4 times a day, 2 OTs and 2 PTs. I told them, I said, I'm a husband, a father, I got a business, I got to get home, I got to get back to work. This is the place that I need to go. And then they approved it. And I went there. I had 14 days. It was closer to my home. It was so hard for my wife. She was torn because she's leaving the boys at home. They're kind of doing homeschool, but it was like they missed like almost a semester of school because they couldn't do schoolwork with daddy almost dying. My mother passed away while I was in coma, September 21st. And when I woke up, Loretta, I just knew my mother was alive. I didn't even question it. And my wife, thankfully, she waited a few days for me to get stronger. She comes into the hospital with the chaplain into my hotel, my hospital room. And she's sitting there with the chaplain. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh, this is it. She wants to get a divorce. Like what a coma. I'm thinking what a coma was showing me was like the future. It was so scary. And my eyes started to almost water then. And I was just in such fear. And, her and the chaplain, she starts talking and then she says it. And it was weird because it was like such mixed emotions because I'm relieved that she didn't want a divorce. But
Yeah.
then I'm completely floored and devastated because she told me that my mother passed away on September 21st, 2021, which is wild because she was born on April 21st. And I'm just like, what? How? Like, you know what I mean? And so I don't want to get into all that, but I know that if I was awakened, she would have made it. But that's okay because I think, from just working with different people and even, getting some different readings, even in the Akashic with other healers, um, that not only was my mother ready, but it was almost like we were separated so that she could move on. I told her in 2018, I said, Ma, if you want to go or you're ready to go, she had been through a lot, and she was 80. But I told her in 2018, 2019, I said, if you want to go, Ma, we're okay. Me and my wife and the kids are fine. And my job was just to make her smile each day. The dementia was getting bad. She couldn't eat anymore. She was on a feeding tube. And I know she was ready, but I think, and I don't think I know
Mhm.
that she kind of did the spiritual work on the other side once she passed. Because even that same nurse, he said the first night when I went into, he told my wife when I went into your husband's room, there was this beautiful angelic spirit over his bed. And she said that was probably his mom because his mom just passed. And he's like, yeah, that makes sense to me. Because, so, um, and I have no regrets. I took her and my mother over 20 years. And I was the good son, and she
Mhm.
was one of my best friends, and I just love her to death, and I miss her every day, and my kids, and we celebrate her and talk about her all the time. So it's a positive thing. But at that time, it was
That's,
like a shot through the heart.
I cannot imagine. That is so much. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, because I heard that you said when you woke up and you saw your wife, you were angry because you were still thinking that she was having an affair. And so to hear, first of all, I would like to say, my condolences to you and your family for the loss of your mother.
Thank you.
And it was just great intuition for you to tell the hospital staff to take you to go see your mom.
Well, as soon as I got
The
there,
coma, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
she was down the hall and I had to go see her. And I was glad looking back on all of it now that we even had that moment. And
yeah.
then I saw her a couple times on FaceTime, but I was getting so sick, they didn't want to unplug me to take me back to see her again. Because I did request it, trust me. But I, would have the nurses, a couple times see her on FaceTime. But that final day, I remember September 6th, I don't think I saw her. But I do remember them saying, we're going to send her home. And I was like, well, you can't. I think she needs to continue to heal. And I said, my wife isn't completely healed from her dealing with COVID. Didn't
Mhm.
affect the kids, but me and my wife were like struggling. But she was, better than me. And so they didn't send my mother home, ironically enough, until September 10th, my birthday.
Mhm.
And she got sick again that morning. They didn't give my mom medicine. She survived the COVID, but she died from pneumonia. You and I could die from pneumonia if we don't have
Yeah.
antibiotics to help us.
Yes.
And they didn't. Yeah. Anyway, that gets me too upset and angry. So, but you know, there
Yeah.
are no accidents. Everything
Yeah.
happens for a reason, and
I was
God,
just gonna say that. It's
yeah, God
all
has us.
exactly, exactly. It's all in divine perfection. It's all in divine perfection. Um, so just to make sure the viewers are aware, these scenarios, the hospital taking your oxygen and all that, this was all in Eric's coma state. This was not happening for real.
Yeah. And
He
my
was
40 days in a coma, exactly. But can I tell you something that's wild about
yes,
that? That respiratory nurse and the head of the hospital, I never met them. But when I saw them in real life, once I was awakened, because that lady, she didn't work with me, but she worked with my second hospital roommate. I had one gentleman from South Africa and then another guy from New Jersey who was Yugoslavian, who we became good friends. And she was his respiratory nurse. And when I saw her, Loretta, I was like, I've seen her before. And it was the same woman from in a coma. How's that possible? And don't you know the head of the hospital, tall, Caucasian gentleman, darker hair. They were doing construction on the wing where I was. No, no lie. The first time I went out with the physical therapist and I went out in the wheelchair with the walker and they had me take a couple steps. And so, me, I was like, I was, did my thing, took a couple steps, and then I kind of paused. And my wife was videotaping. She said, "What are you doing?" I started doing a little dance. I said, "Well, if we're gonna do a video, I'm gonna let people know, like, I'm back. I'm. And she's like, "What are you doing?" And the therapist, "What are you doing?" I did my little, almost like a little crip walk, but like a little dance or whatever. And I was just like, letting them know. But I looked in the hallway, and this guy smiled at me. He was about 6'2", 6'3", real tall, so he stood out. And I didn't know who he was, but I knew who he was. Fast forward months later, where I'm healing, my wife and I are watching this series. For anybody who's been through a near death experience, you have to watch the OA.
Mm.
And it was really deep on Netflix. And this doctor was like kidnapping people, and they were doing these testing on what happens when people die. And he would kill them, monitor them, and then pull them back and bring them back. And as I'm watching the show, I'm just like, whoever wrote this, like they went through a near death experience, because like it was basically bringing up for me all these different memories. And then at that moment, mind you, this is like months later, I'm watching this at home. It's like it was a full circle moment, like in the movie that you would
Mm.
see. And I was like, wait a minute, that guy in the hallway, I saw him and he was in my hospital room when they took away the oxygen from me while I was in a coma. How
Wow.
does that work? Like, how did it's like remote viewing almost while I'm in a coma. I'm seeing people that I've never seen in real life. And then when I awaken, it was the same people that were in my coma state. And that happened with the him and with the hospital lady and even with one of the nurses. So I just, I can't explain that stuff. And I can tell you that different dimensions are real.
Mhm.
I can tell you spiritual warfare is real. I've always known that God and Yeshua and Jesus are real,
Mhm.
but I, well, now it's, the confirmation is like, no one could ever, get me off my belief or square, so that's just, my experience. But things like that are bone chilling because you
Yeah.
can't make that up. Like,
Wow, that is incredible. Let me ask you this, Eric. Do you think that the times, because you said that you died 3 times, I know there was a time when you, in your dream, in your coma, you were shot.
yeah.
Do you think those times were synonymous when you actually flatlined?
You
You said
see,
you
I
physically
I I
disfigured.
wonder. So this is something else that is really deep because when I was in a coma, there was times where I was coming back to my house, and I remember being at my house, and it was not the same house, but my thing, my wife's friend and my niece, and then my wife's boyfriend that were here, and there was like a basement, and there was like this whole like sex ring and drugs going on. My kids were disobedient. It was all this weird stuff going on. And I think what's fascinating is that being in the wheelchair, that's what my mom experienced.
Mm.
Well, both my parents were shot when I was younger. My father was murdered when I was 6, and my mother was shot in the head, left for dead, and survived. And the bullet fragments that remain in her brain is what helped the doctors to be able to go. They had a clear path to get her tumor in her frontal lobe when she went from breast cancer metastasized to the brain cancer. So the wheelchair was experiencing my mom, the shots were experiencing both, but my father shot like in the chest or whatever and stuff like that, being murdered. And I think it was almost like kind of like some sort of completion. And then, dying 3 times, three, a very spiritual number, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Jesus, just so many things. So I, I, I guess the way that I perceive it, I don't know if it correlated with the time. The only thing that connects was the birthday, wishing me happy birthday, and then me experiencing that in a coma, the birthday party.
Right.
But and time wise, that seemed like that was later on in my journey in terms of the vignettes, how I remember them in order. Because, as time goes on, the order of them is like hard to remember.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I've written it all down, but you don't know. Time's not linear in that sense, So I don't know, but I do know in terms of what I experienced and dying 3 times, there's nothing to fear. Fear
Mm.
nothing. And I think, when you go through childhood traumas,
Mhm.
you I never feared death. For me, I remember wanting to get past 45 because that's when my father was murdered at 45 years old. And once I got past 45, I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm here. And I said this in time. Yeah, I remember a 6-year-old boy. I had an older sister and my mom. I felt responsible for both of them at 6. That's who I am, and that's how I felt as a young boy. And this whole experience, it was almost like I was kind of healing all these experiences. And for me, I feel like I had to go tussle, go battle with Satan, be like, leave me and my family alone. I have a lot of Scorpio placements, and a lot of times Scorpios risings go through the dark night of soul, but it's karma here to break generational curses.
Hmm. I
And so
love.
I think all those are gone now.
Well, I want you to get into your astrology, but first I wanted to say it is fascinating that you were in a coma. You visited your family at home. I think you said you went and sat on the couch while you were in a coma.
I couldn't walk. It was like I was still in the hospital bed. I was just laying on the couch.
But your son
Yes.
saw you. He
No,
saw
he
you.
did.
Kids, I always say kids are not as conditioned as we are. So
No,
they still have those intuitive abilities that are so strong and powerful that
they
we
do.
somehow kicked out of our awareness. But that I thought that was incredible.
And unfortunately, adults don't always listen to the kids or believe them. When
It,
your children say something to you, Mommy, I saw somebody over there. Yeah, they did. Believe them.
Say that
Okay.
one more time,
They
Eric.
are not lying. When
Say
they
that
tell you
again.
that they
Yes,
see somebody or they saw a spirit or an
yes,
imaginary friend or an ancestor that's passed away, believe them.
yes.
They're not playing games and they're not lying. And for years and decades and generations, parents have not listened to the kids. But remember, they just came back into this carnation through the portal of their mothers, right? And they still are attached to the other side.
Right.
Huh?
That is so important. That is so important. I say that all the time. So I love that you just spoke that.
Yeah.
I love that you just spoke that. It is important. Believe your kids. So many times in the ear say, yeah, when I was 5, I saw a grandma who passed, and my mom said, don't say that anymore. You're gonna sound crazy. And validate what they see, what they tell you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for saying that. Let's talk about your astrology. How did you get into astrology? So let's
Oh
talk.
my gosh. I tell you, it's kind of wild. I mean, I grew up knowing my mom was Catholic, my father was Baptist. But I always knew my dad was an Aries. Got the little Aries, the ram behind me over here. My mom was the Taurus, my sister was a Libra, and I was a Virgo. And I was a big, New York, I used to read all the newspapers, USA Today, New York Post, Daily News. And I'd read my sports section first, but then in the back or in the New York Post, they always had the horoscopes. So I would read that and I would be curious and whatever. And I just remember as the years went on, I just really would, being a native New Yorker, it's like every street corner is a mini movie. And
Mm,
so for me as a professional, I became, after college, I came back to New York and became a professional actor. And, I just, I would just understand the energies of each sun sign. I didn't know deeper than that. I didn't know my moon and rising and Mercury. I had no concept, but I mastered the sun signs back, forth, up, and down. And then, I'll be honest, it became almost like I don't want to say a weapon because I wasn't bad. I did it, for good, but it was definitely a way to kind of, knock on the ladies.
ah,
I knew when I met a woman, especially at the end of high school, but more so my college years, if she was, Sagittarius or Gemini or, Capricorn or whatever, I knew basically, sometimes erogenous zones, body parts, how to talk to them. Like I got this big book and feel so bad because I wound up throwing away after I became a born again Christian in 99. But it was like this, almost like an astrology Bible, but it would break down the deacons, right? So you are, let's say if we're in Aries season, right? And if you're born, early, like from the 21st to like 30th, you're the Aries deacon from 0 to 9 degrees. Then the Aries Leo deacon goes from 10 to 19 degrees. And then right now, what we're in is the Sagittarius deacon from 20 to 29 degrees. And so in this book, it would break down like an Aries, and they would go 1, 2, or 3. They would say Aries 2 is good with Libra 3 for marriage, and good with Virgo 2 for work, and good with Capricorn this for friendship. And it would break down everything. And so I looked at the book and I read my week, which is from I think the 3rd or the 4th to the 11th. It was Virgo 2, which I'm the Virgo Capricorn deacon. And the title of it freaked me out
Mm.
because I had been working on, I did sketch comedy, never did stand up, and worked on Saturday Night Live and House of Buggin' and almost got on in Living Color. I had auditioned for it, went all the way through. And then as I'm graduating college in 94, Fox did the fall schedule. They do the TV schedule in May. And this is just after Keenan had left and Jamie was on and other people. Fox had canceled in Living Color. And I
Mhm.
was devastated. I went through all these auditions. They were going to fly me out to LA to meet the executives.
Wow.
They canceled the show. So, but I was like, okay. And then I had another near close one and that's what made me go to New York and study acting professionally because I also auditioned for Clockers. And it got down to 3 or 4 guys, and obviously Mekhi Phifer got it, but I got a couple callbacks for that with Spike Lee's movie. And then I wound up working on other stuff with him later on. But so anyway, I looked at it, and week 2 was the week of the Enigma. Well, I was working on a one-man show called the Energetic Enigma. So I was
Mm.
like, whoa, when I read that, Loretta, I swear, I turned around and I was like, are there cameras here? Like, who in the hell has been spying on me in my life? Because that week of the Enigma, Virgo 2, it broke me down, and I was just like, it's like I almost felt like naked. I was like, man, they like know me. Like who? You know what I mean? So like when you see stuff like that, it kind of like resonates, and you're like, that's deep. And
Mhm.
that to me was a next level of astrology. And so, I got really into it, and then I drifted away after 99. I went to California and became born again Christian. And I found, connected. I had a half sister, and from my dad, and connected with her. And I was out there acting, doing some commercial stuff and auditioning. And then I wound up staying with her. It was like the holy setup. And I go to church and I'm at Bible study. And my sister was a Christian thug. She'd tell you straight up, she'd be like, oh, so if you die tonight, are you going to heaven or hell? Do you know Jesus? And she was just straight up. She was a Christian thug, London. And I said to her, I don't know. She's like, oh, well, you need to know, And so, and so they did an altar call, and I just went up there, and oh my God, this is like right in where they got the Rams Stadium, right in Inglewood, in the hood in Cali. So this church was so great, and it was just a blessing, and I had a great time, and I got baptized and everything. So it was beautiful. But fast forward, I'm a Christian. I was on fire, going to church, this and that, back in New York, and Times Square Church, and this and that, and Central Baptist, and this and that. But as the years went on, there'd be little things and experiences that would just kind of prick me, that would bring back up the astrology.
Mm.
And I meet my wife, and somewhere in my head, I always felt like I would marry a Pisces. I don't know why.
Mm.
But my wife's a Pisces, I'm a Virgo. And I just started like logging and paying attention to all my past relationships. And then I was writing down, and I knew their sun signs, and I'm looking and I'm studying. And I'm just at the point where I was just like, I just want to get married. Now, I dreamt about my wife before I met her. I
Mm.
have Uranus and Libra in the 12th house in my natal birth chart. And Uranus is a spiritual awakener. You can get downloads. It goes back to ancient Kemet, Osiris, but it's like innovative, weird, bizarre, futuristic, extreme events. And Libra is about relationships, partnerships, marriage. So I would get these dreams. I dreamt about 9/11 2 years before it happened. I dreamt about my wife when I would be dating a girl and in a relationship. I could see her when she wasn't with me. Now, this wasn't stuff that I was controlling. This would just happen in my dreams. And
Wow.
so, I started to make these connections, and things were just pulling me back to the astrology, but not until I got sick with the valley fever. I was doing sports radio, and I was like, I'm too sick. I can't work a 9 to 5 or a regular job. And I was like, okay, I want to be a life coach. I can help people.
Mm.
I figured out, I can really help people with all my life experience. For 10 years, 13 years, I was a teacher. 10 years, I taught multiply severely disabled children in the Bronx. Tourette's, Down syndrome, MR, autism, cerebral palsy, blindness, everything. And I had all this experience, all these different things, and I'm really sick. And I'm like, how can I still do things? So I started to look into life coaching programs and this and that. And I was like, no, I think maybe relationship coaching. Then I was going to do chronic illness coaching. And then I was going to teach children self-esteem stuff for, acting and teach them how to rhyme, right? To build their confidence,
I love
all
that.
this stuff. But doing all this research and all this stuff, it led me back to astrology through the lens of medical astrology because Western medicine was failing me. So I started to watch these videos on YouTube and I'm reading these articles and reading, books and blogs and all this stuff. And then something hit me. And then I really started to like, okay, you're a Scorpio rising, you're a Virgo sun, you're a Capricorn moon. Oh, but you've got Mercury in Virgo and Pluto and Mars. And I'm starting to learn and watch these videos. And I'm like, this is, and honestly, Loretta, I swear, as I was going through this, it just was like my soul was remembering and everything was like coming full circle. And I'm
Wow.
telling you, and then I found someone who actually is a Virgo like me and a Scorpio rising, and I signed up and I took her astrology course. And there's no reason. I literally I started to remember and get it so fast. It was like a computer. And I realize now it's something I've been doing for millennium in the galactic, that I was part of helping to create the constellations and the zodiac belt. And I learned this in my Akasha Records readings that I had with Miss Debbie Solaris and other people. So, I mean, it just, but it makes sense because seriously, for me, I'm legally blind in my right eye, I'm visually impaired. And so it was harder. And I had to just memorize everything. Because some people, you can look at the different lines and the colors will tell you, but I couldn't see all that so clearly. So I just would memorize it, but it was just coming to me like it didn't even make sense. It was just like, okay, this is a square. Aries square is Capricorn. This, that, that. This is this, that. And I was just like, boom, boom, boom. And I was just getting it. And then would practice interpreting birth charts, started with my own, then my wife, then my kids. And it was just boom, boom, boom. And then, I took some more courses, did some more studying and reading. And then I just jumped in and started to go to little festivals and stuff and would meet people and then, would give them a breakdown and then read their charts. People were like, oh my God, thank you. This is amazing. And then, took another course and then boom.
That's
And started my
fascinating.
business.
That
So
is fascinating. First of all, I gotta say, it is my belief. It is not my belief that astrology is going against religion or God. It's a way to inform, the moon and the sun and impact our energies.
yeah,
So I felt like I just wanted to put that out there.
yeah.
It is not something that, you're
Well,
not,
even look at the religious holidays with the
yeah,
Jews and the Muslims, right? Ramadan ended at the Aries solar eclipse. It started right at the at the was it the Pisces new moon, right? And then they wait for the moon to become crescent when the moon's in Gemini to do Eid, right? So and the Jews, not just Passover, right? But also you have Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. They're based on it's all the lunar calendar, right?
it's all
Mazel
connected.
Tov is like may the stars be with you. So it's interwoven, and the Bible really is an astrology book. When they talk about the different things, and even when you look at the Last Supper, it represents the 12 zodiac signs, and you
Yeah.
can see it when they're dressed, what they're wearing is wow. When you break it down, so I think what I want people to understand is that imagine being up in heaven with God before you select to come here. You choose your parents and you're looking at the big screen and you're like, "Oh, I need to have some childhood trauma. I need to have issues with my brother. Oh, I've got to have a challenging mom who's not as nurturing and caring because this will help me understand this. This will help me with that." And you're selecting these different karmic life lessons to learn, and then it's like you hit enter and then you go through, you're born in your mother's belly and in the womb in the portal. But what you selected, that's your birth chart, that's the map of your life. So
Mm.
then when I read it to you, it's you just remembering what your soul had already selected for you to evolve on your destined path in this lifetime. That's why the Chiron wound is so deep. The Pluto, the Uranus, the Neptune, these generational outer planets. But your Venus, your love language and relationships. The Jupiter for a woman, it could be a husband in this chart. Your wisdom, beliefs, and philosophies. Mercury, the analytical, processing, logical mind. The Moon, your emotions, sensitivities, intuition. Your mother, your body, your health. The Sun, you, your father, your ego, your purpose, vitality. It is so powerful. And for me, I feel like such a humble servant doing God's work because the planets are light body energies that vibrate down here. That's why the moon controls the tides of the oceans. I mean, the Farmer's Almanac, this is everything is connected. We're three-fourths of water. The world's three-fourths of water. There are no accidents.
Eric, talk about, I really want you to talk about what a person would walk away knowing about themselves if you did a birth chart astrology reading for them. How would it benefit them?
Some of it is confirmation
Mhm,
for how you've been living and what you're doing and the path that you're on.
mhm,
Some of it is multidimensional. It will help you increase your self love, help you better understand the relationships with your parents and siblings,
mhm,
with coworkers, with your boss, and with every aspect of your life. There's 12 houses representing 2 hours of time, and each house is telling a story and representing 20 to 40 different things in your life, the complexities and the planets and how they're aligned, right? I could be a Virgo sun and mine's in the 11th house, totally different from somebody born the same day, same year, but at a different time. They're Virgo sun in the 5th or 6th house. That house is telling the story of how your soul is vibrating here on earth, right? And people don't know when you look at the newspaper and read the daily horoscope, reason why it may not resonate and people are like, oh, astrology is fake and it's stupid. It's not, that's not happening in my life. It's because when they're doing that, they don't tell you it's based on your rising sign ascendant. And that's based not on the date, the time you were born. In the eastern horizon of the sky, the constellation that was rising in the eastern horizon at the time of your birth is what sets up your first house, which is the only house of self, the rising sign. Then each other house is you in relation to other aspects and people in your life. So in the birth chart, I can help you heal your inner child, reprogram your subconscious mind, tap into your destined path, see where you may have haters or work enemies, see where you can have issues with your siblings. I can see potentially where you can find love and when, and the character types of the potential partner. I can see children, when you may have children, personalities of your kids. I can see second, third, fourth marriages, all of it. I mean, I'll share this one insight. I was working with a single mother one time, and I said, I see something in the chart. Can I ask you a kind of a tough question? And she's like, oh, no, I want you to be honest and real with me. That's why I came to you. And I said, well, I see in your sixth house and the planetary alignments, I see that you had an affair at work. Was it with your coworker or your boss? And she gasped. She was like, she's like, you could see that? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I'm not judging. It's okay. I was like, I just was curious and I didn't know, 'cause you can't tell specifically. And she goes, that was after my husband and I separated and I had an affair with my boss, but he said he was going to leave his wife. And I said, no, there's deception there. So I could see that. I could see that he lied to you. And she's like, oh my God, yeah, he did. I was like, yeah. And she's like, I can't believe you saw that in a chart. And I was like, yeah. I see everything. If you go to a psychologist or a therapist, they have to ask you the right questions and you have to be an open book and willing to share. You come to me, I have my questionnaire, just basic questions: married, about your parents, kids, siblings, hobbies, career, gender, height, just basic questions because the chart will speak to me. It reveals everything. And
wow.
so things like that, like it blew her away and she just like couldn't believe it. And even with clients, dealing with different things, right? I know for you, we had spoken and if you don't mind me sharing, like I know you had questions about like relationships and stuff like that. Well, you are a Taurus moon, right?
Okay, you go
Cancer
get my
sun.
beans. Go get my beans there.
Well, I won't share it all, but I noticed that in your seventh house you had the planet Neptune. And
Okay.
the seventh house deals relationships and marriage. But what happens is when you have Neptune there, you can deal with a lot of deception in
Mm,
relationships or marriage.
mm,
You may idealize or be unrealistic or idealistic about a partner, but quite literally, you can deal with partners that are just straight up lying and deceiving you. What Neptune creates is a fog, and so you may not see the other half, the seventh house of the descendant. It's you in relation to others. So it speaks about business partnerships, relationships, marriage. And when you have Neptune there, sometimes you just can't see those people clearly. Now, they can get also involved in deception, drugs, escapism, alcohol abuse, all types of stuff. But Neptune is very deep. So I really work with my clients and advise them how you integrate that energy and
mm.
how you're better able to clearly see people in the lens of relationships in a better way.
I love that. I love that. That's profound. So y'all there, I mean, that sounds pretty detailed that you can get. So check Eric out with that. For real. Like that's I love that kind of stuff. I love that kind of stuff. Real quick. Tell us about the status of your book, Elevators to Love.
Well, my relationship coaching book is just on pause right now
Um,
because I'm trying to finish up my first astrology book. It's a workbook basically taking you through the basic foundations of astrology. But I've got a little secret sauce because there's a million astrology books out there. So I'm just coming at it from a different angle and a different perspective.
mhm.
And I'm really excited. I should be hopefully done with that in a month or two. And then at the same time, with the relationship coaching book, I'm also like kind of caught in between. I just got accepted to speak on a panel in the end of August for my near-death experience with the organization. I think it's IAMS, and it's
Nice.
yeah, it's about near-death experiences. So
Congratulations.
I am going to be a panelist, and so I'm starting to really focus a little bit more on working on my near-death experience book and or slash screenplay. So the all three books will get done. Astrology book is up first, and then I'm going back and forth with what will be the second book. And then I'm also designing my level 2 astrology course for people who want to become a professional astrologer. And I
Right.
may start teaching that, early summer or early fall, just depending on my schedule and when I finish designing it. But that's going to be an 8 to 10 week program. I've already taught 2 times my basic foundations intro to basic astrology course. And so my students are already reading birth charts for people. And it's just so rewarding. I do astrological life coaching, which is a 5 week program where you first book the birth chart. And then the next 4 weeks, I teach you, we break down 3 houses at a time, and I teach you how to live and exist in the flow and the energy of your natal birth chart. And we do a deeper dive because each week we only look at 3 houses. So I look at the lunar mansions behind that's looking at the degrees and behind the signs, right? So let's say if you were in Aries and you were born March 28th, right? You would be in the Aries deacon, but the lunar mansion behind that is the south node. So there's a little spiritual, but also bombastic, explosive energy behind that sun, right? So lunar mansions is another layer of interpretation. But think about how complex God has made each human being. That's why astrology is so complex. There's these little finite, minute details that can explain the difference between you and someone else, just 3 hours difference in birth time,
I
you know?
love I love that.
Yeah,
I
it's
have
it's
heard
so amazing and fascinating. It
it
really is.
really is. I just have a couple more questions.
Yeah.
I've heard you mention, which I love, that scientists have confirmed that the highest vibrations are love, gratitude, and authenticity.
Yeah.
Let's briefly tell us your thoughts on that.
Well, there's so much work that's going on with studying the brain. Like, even they've come to find out that alcohol can shrink the brain and make you more juvenile and bring on things like the Alzheimer's and dementia, which is really connected to, diabetes and blood sugar levels in the brain. And so it's the same thing that, the human design prophecy, which is a mixture of astrology, quantum physics, and the I Ching, the prophecy of human design, which reads your auras, is that in 2027, the collective is going to leave our solar plexus and move to our heart chakra, which really is beautiful and deep to think about energetically and spiritually. The energies have been kind of wild since 2020. And in astrology, we can explain all that and we see how the planets have moved and what's happening as we left the Piscean age. And every 2100 years, you move to a different age. And this is what we call the age of Aquarius. And so, in the age of Aquarius, the whole idea of celebrity or government, those times are gone. That's why you've had all that stuff with Me Too and people and things being revealed about celebrities and power people, in the last few years and most recently since 2020, start of 2024. And what's really going on with Pluto and Aquarius the next 20 years, it's more power to the people. Pluto reveals the secrets, right? And it did that in Capricorn of the structures and systems of society, government, politics, medical system, Hollywood, you know, just financial, all of it. Well, in Aquarius, it's going to do the same with the dark web, science, technology, but it's also power to the people. Because
Mhm.
Pluto in Aquarius is that everybody gets a slice of vegan pizza and some kombucha. I used to say back in the day, a slice of pizza and Snapple, but I had to evolve it because we could get more healthy now. So you get vegan pizza and you get some kombucha now. But that's the age of Aquarius energy and vibrating from your heart chakra with love and self love first. People
Mhm.
don't understand. You can't truly love another if you don't love yourself,
Speak it.
right?
Yeah.
Then gratitude. Did we wake up this morning? Yeah, thank
Mhm.
God. We
Mhm.
woke up to see another day. It was a grand rising. You're
Mhm.
not mourning everything. Language is very intentional and important, and we have to, right? English is a very low vibrational language. When we had the original people in indigenous lands who would do mental telepathy, whether it was in Africa or different tribes and native indigenous cultures, or even in New Zealand and Australia, right? And like and making sounds and frequencies, well, that's the energy. Everything is frequency and vibration. And so having that gratitude for nature, right? Having that appreciation and that love. And then you can't be Jennifer or Stephanie. You can only be Miss Loretta. And that's more than enough. Be your true, authentic self, right? Nobody wants to see somebody faking and me trying to be, I'm not Michael Jordan. I'm not Kobe. I'm not Cat Williams. I'm not Dave Chappelle. I'm Eric Taylor. And that's more than enough.
I
And
love that you talked about the term, the words good morning.
yeah.
And shout out to Jelani Clay, my good friend. We just talked about that.
Oh,
We
yeah.
wanted to stop saying good morning. What are we mourning? So when you said that, I'm like, oh yes, yes. So no grant. So I thought the grand rising was like, I don't know, a little bit corny, but
And I get that, but it's really not. And the
yeah,
thing is, what are we doing? We're rising from that time of rest, but it's the time of healing,
yeah.
right? When we eat, it's when we're breaking our fast.
Mhm.
But through the night, each organ is going through its process of digesting food and doing different things. And a lot of people will tell you the time when you're not guided or protected by God or spirit guides or angels is between 3 and 4 a.m. And that's the transition of the liver to the lungs. And so those are two things that help really function the body to survive, right? And so if you think about it, that's like that hour where,
When we wake up.
yeah, nobody's watching you, nobody's covered, protected you,
Wow.
So really the body, humans should really at least be asleep from 10 to 4, 5 a.m., whatever. But that's the time when your body is going through these different stages. And we can eat and live through the circadian rhythms of the sun and connect. And, you know, intermittent fasting, not only is it in the Bible, but it's good for your health. It's a way that we regenerate ourselves. And just so you know, the Saturn return is about 28 and a half, 29 years old. Well, that connects, show you how God makes no mistakes, that connects to the cerebral cortex and the medulla oblongata, that it's still forming and growing. So you are not really an adult. And of course, women mature 2 to 3 years faster than men. So with women, it goes from like 25 to about 28 and a half when the cerebral cortex is still finishing and forming. And men, it's about 27 to about 31, maybe 32 sometimes. So that coincides with the Saturn returns. I tell people all the time, if I was God or president, every human being would get a birth chart, and I could cut down divorce at least by 50, 60, 70% if people just waited to at least 29 years old for their first marriage, because then you're really an adult. Mars matures at 27. Have you ever heard of Club 27?
Hmm. Hmm.
With Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain, a myriad of others have all died at age 27. Amy Winehouse, because 27 is the year Mars matures. Mars, the god of war, is the soldier, the warrior, the general. It's assertive, aggressive energy. It initiates, it attacks, but it's also Mars cuts, separates, divides. It's procedures, it's fights, it's arguments. It's a very explosive, powerful energy and planet. And based on the alignments that in your chart at age 27, it can be sometimes a time where things can happen and people wind up, losing their life. And Club 27, we've had a lot of famous people pass away at that age.
Oh, you have a wealth. Like we could do this another hour. You have a wealth of information. I'm gonna have you on. I've just made an executive decision.
Yes, I would love to come back.
Yeah, I have to get you back on really. When you publish your first book, whichever one it is,
Okay, I would love that.
I would like for you to, yes, yeah, I'm integrating that. Even just to talk about, maybe you can do a little astrology thing and tell, my wheels are turning. Okay, so what is your website? If people wanted to contact you, what's your
Yeah.
website?
So my website is actually connected to my nickname since I was 7 years old. Big E, so BIGE astrology.com. Okay, that's my website. And you can book all my services there, from my relationship coaching to all my different, I've got about 20 different services you could select. It is really wild. We have um, many relationship readings. I have synastry compatibility readings, which is like two people coming together for a relationship. Now, you could do this with someone you love, or you could do it with a child. You could do it with your mother. I've had two best girlfriends do a synastry compatibility chart. It's very powerful. Career, business birth charts. Oh my gosh, I love doing that. I've worked with some really big businesses, and trust me, the Fortune 500 companies, the power people, they know and use astrology, numerology, and gematria. Trust me. Okay. There's certain dates and times I can help you if you want to file your LLC or your S Corp, when the best time to do it is.
Mhm.
So check
Right.
out the website, explore it. And if you want to email me directly, if you want to book like my birth chart sales or different things like that, that I don't really have that on the website, because month to month I offer a different sale based on the season. So
Mhm.
right now we're heading towards the end of Aries season. So my birth chart sale, you have to email me directly at bigeastrology@gmail.com. And I have a sale for all Aries sun signs, moon signs, and rising signs. And then as we go into this year, a leap year, it's a little earlier, April 20th, we're going to start Taurus season. And so then I will have a birth chart sale for Taurus sun signs, moon signs, and rising signs. So it's really great. I've got a lot of services. I do a lot of work meeting with my clients over Zoom. I work with people all over the world. And I also have an astrology monthly meeting called Astrological Coffee Talk with Eric. And it's really great because I get to teach lessons. I call it my 11th house crew. And it's a great place for people not to feel alone. Because a lot of times, and I don't believe in ever judging people, right? On Earth School, you may be, and I may be 10th, 11th, 12th grade, but we may have friends and family members that are more kindergarten, first, second grade. And
Mhm.
they may not, think about like what you said about with the spirits and children and or understanding dimensions or anything about spirituality. They might be like, oh, I'm only a Muslim, I'm only Jewish, I'm only a Christian, I'm only this. And that's okay. But if people want to awaken to escape this Saturnian bubble matrix that we're in and really understand things, sometimes coming to a coffee talk is a safe space where you can meet other people so you know that you're not crazy. People are just like you and they love astrology and they still love God and love talking about different things. And so I'm glad that I created this safe space.
Mhm.
So, as we're recording this, I'm having one that is April 13th, but in May, probably the second or third Saturday in May, I will be announcing, and people can check my YouTube channel, Biggie Astrology. There in community, I put my post of scheduled events and things like that. But every month, I do an astrology meeting for 2 hours over Zoom, and it's only $20. And it's really a joy to connect with people face to face.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Any last words of wisdom before I read you your closing remarks, Eric?
Yes. Oh, always love sharing wisdom. I think that's what it's all about. I have Jupiter on my ascendant, and Jupiter represents wisdom, beliefs, expansion, abundance, fortune, and philosophies. So I think for me, um, it's important to understand that when you are alone, you're not lonely.
Mm,
Right? It's a time and it may be a season in our lives where we may be more alone or isolated. And that's the time where God wants you to do the work. Don't be afraid to change and get uncomfortable because then that's where God can do the miracles in your life, right? If we just are like, oh, I'm 39 or I'm 47 or I'm 58 or I'm 62 and I know everything and da 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 da, and you're closed off and you're just like a tree in the ground and you can't move or adjust, you're limiting yourself. You have to be open to new opportunities, new ideas and thoughts, and always have a hunger. Seek knowledge, be curious. Because, like, for example, most of my people that I know who, like, oh, I don't believe in astrology, but they don't know anything about it. So, how could you believe in something you have no knowledge of? You're completely ignorant to it, and that's okay. But if you are willing to just sit down and listen for a second, I can open up your eyes and reveal a whole new world to you that would make you understand and be like, oh, wow, how did you? There's no way that you could know that about me. You don't know me, but just for looking at this birth chart, you know this information about me? Well, yeah, there's no accident. Remember, God, don't limit God and put God in a box. God controls all the planets, God controls the whole universe, right? So, no, astrology is not a sin, you know?
right.
And just um, just live in love, gratitude, and just be your authentic self. I think really that's the best message at this time. And and be brave and courageous. That's what this solar eclipse that we just went through was about,
Mm,
bringing in new beginnings and new energies for us to be the leaders of our life, to initiate and assert ourselves properly. You want to start a new job, a new career, ask for a raise, take that hobby to a business? The time is now. Go do it. The North Node is in Aries till January 11, 2025. This is the time to be the warrior, the independent leader of your own life and go get it. And I cheer you on and I wish you the best. And you can always email me because I'm here to help support people to be the best versions of themselves. So just shoot me an email, go to my website, bigeastrology@gmail.com, And I salute you and wish you nothing but love.
Oh, I just had a love moment. That's yes, yes, yes. And I love your term. I'm gonna pick up your term, understand.
Yeah.
Love that. Understand instead of understand. You are too deep, Eric. You are for real. You too deep. So
Listen, that's from that Aries and Taurus parents, you know?
okay, I love it. So your closing remarks, Eric. So you just listen and receive. Eric, during your coma, you were taken to a hostile world, a dimension where the presence of love was not found. It seems that the battle you were faced with for your physical life mimicked a battle occurring in the non-physical realm. And as if the bewilderment of having a medical team that sought to harm you instead of helping you was not enough, this spiritual battle you were experiencing also sought to undermine the unity within your family. These hostile scenarios continued to meld with your personal life, using the nuances of your life to provide just enough truth to make the lie all the more convincing. Many of the vignettes you encountered were tests geared to challenge the trust and loyalty within your family unit. These illusory snippets were filled with rich sights, sounds, and settings to ensure that your dream state seemed as real as this dimension that we find ourselves in right now, and therefore just as hurtful. You felt the heartbreak of betrayal of love during these scenarios as they continued to mount one convincing plot onto another and could have penetrated your will to live. Yet, even in the slippery and unpredictable world of dreams, you continue to stand your ground and remember the truth of who you are. You refuse to give in to the momentum of these tests and assert yourself as a powerful divine being of light, that you were made from the energy of love. And the theme of your story is something that I often reiterate on this channel, Eric, which is that love never dies. The love from the medical staff and the overwhelming love that you have within your beautiful family were waiting on you in this realm of physical form. We are all made of this pervading, unstoppable energy of love. And it is this love that pierced through any lie that you could have experienced. Thank you so much for your courage and drive. Thank you for your humor. Thank you for standing strong under illusion. Thank you for being here and for joining the show with us today. I will have to absolutely have you on again. It has been a pleasure having you.
Oh, thank you, Loretta. This was just beautiful and amazing. And what you just read to me, that pierced right through my heart. And it's so funny how you said that because I didn't share this with you. But yes, that love was tested. And I remember in a coma, my wife was going to divorce me and move to Atlanta and take one of my sons and would come back once a month to help me with the other two boys and help me as I was recovering to get out of this wheelchair that I was in. And I told her, I said, I'm not going to give up on us. And when you're ready, I'll take you back because I love you that much. I was so hurt and not understanding that she was giving up on us. And I was still willing in a coma to say, you know what, I believe in our love more than anything. And so you just hit that right on the nail, and that's so beautiful. And I am, this is an honor and a pleasure, and I love to come back. And it's so funny as you're reading this, I'm visualizing your birth chart and seeing these different placements, and I'm like, that's that. And so it's so powerful. People don't even understand, and I just thank you. Your words were magical, and it just makes me be and exist in that gratitude because my wife and my boys, they were amazing, and
Yeah,
they stood up for me time and time again. So thank you, and
thank you. I
this was
love
truly a pleasure.
That's so sweet. Like, you know what? You're going crazy right now, but when you get out of it, I'm still here. I love that. That is so beautiful. That's what struck me the most about your story is your beautiful wife and your boys. So Eric, we end with a heart. Can you make a heart?
Let's see. Gosh.
Oh, there you go. There you go. You got it. Just put it up a little bit, a little
All
bit.
right.
There you go. I love it. I love it. Thank you for joining the show. Thank you, everybody. I hope y'all enjoyed this. This was so fun, and so enlightening. And until next time, continue to tune in. Y'all hit the subscribe button. Please stop by Eric's YouTube channel and his website. He has a wealth of information, y'all. I'm going to get into astrology. You have inspired me. So I love y'all. Talk to you soon. Until next
Take care. Thank you.
time. Bye.
Bye.